call to order tonight's meeting of the Upper Providence Board of Supervisors for Monday, September 16th. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item is motion to approve the board agenda. Has everybody seen it? Any questions, comments, corrections, changes?
I'll make a motion to approve the board agenda for September 16th, 2019.
I'll second that.
The motion and a second to approve the board agenda of September 16, 2019. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We come now to the public comment section. And please note that you can speak on any topic you want, whether it's on the agenda or not. If it's on the agenda, please tell us which item it is. So please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less, and when you come up to the microphone, state your name and address. Anybody want to?
And also, Lori, just to clarify from that confusion from the last meeting, this is the only public comment period. There's not additional public comment period as other items are reached, so if there is something you want to comment on, this would be the only time to comment.
Anybody? Going once. Okay, moving on. Ceremonies. We have swearing in of the new Fire Chief of Emergency Services, and that is Daniel Kerrigan. Who else starts this besides me? I said we're swearing in the new chief, so certainly there's somebody else who has words for this besides me.
Oh, you mean the introductions?
Yes.
Sure. Sorry. Dan, do you mind standing? I just want to introduce everybody to our new Chief of Fire and Emergency Services. I'd like to Dan will be joining the township, I think, next Monday as our new Chief of Fire and Emergency Services. Dan comes to us from East Whiteland Township, where he currently serves as East Whiteland's Chief Fire Marshal and Emergency Management Coordinator. Dan brings with him over 32 years of progressive, responsible management experience in the fire, EMS, and emergency management profession. He is a 2014 graduate of the Executive Fire Officer Program from the National Fire Academy and has actively served as a volunteer for the Goshen Volunteer Fire Company. Dan serves on the International Association of Fire Chiefs Safety, Health, and Survival section and is also co-author of a book entitled Firefighter Functional Fitness. So I would like to welcome you officially to the town. We've gotten a really good person. And I just as a side note, Dan was one of 45 applicants that submitted the application. All the applicants went through a very rigorous assessment center. It was a good 365 assessment. I'd like to give some thanks to Chiefs Tommy O'Donnell from the Norristown Fire Department and Chaz McGarvey from the Lower Merion Fire Department. Our HR consultant, Roseanne McGrath, and my assistant manager here, Brian Bortnicek, all were very helpful in making sure that we had a fair process and got the top candidate. And I'm confident that we have the top candidate tonight, so welcome. Thanks.
Is it on?
I should have brought my glasses.
You want to share mine?
No.
Okay, so this is the oath of office. It's the, we have a blank. It's job title, position. Great, thank you so much. I have to make this up.
Chief of Fire and Emergency Services.
Thank you.
That's
Chief
okay.
of Fire and
Emergency
Emergency Services. You know, you can't give me any blanks like that. Just, I'll make
We'll
it up.
wing it.
Upper Providence Township. So for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, County of Montgomery, it's I
I, Daniel Kerrigan,
have been duly appointed to the office of
have been duly appointed to the office of Fire and Emergency Services. Chief, does that work?
Works for me.
Okay.
For Upper Providence Township, Pennsylvania, do solemnly swear
For Upper Providence Township, Pennsylvania, do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
and the ordinances of Upper Providence Township,
and the ordinances of Upper Providence Township,
that I will perform and discharge the duties of my office with fidelity,
that I will perform and discharge the duties of my office with fidelity,
and that I will represent myself in this community
and that I will represent myself in this community
in the most appropriate manner at all times.
in the most appropriate manner at all times.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Did we get enough photo ops with everybody? Or maybe later, whatever. All right, next is I'm also acknowledging and recognizing Tom Dimmerling, who has been the acting fire chief for over 15 months. Did Tom leave? Oh, he's out there. You're quite welcome, and we're so thankful that you were able to step into that position and take care of it for us.
My pleasure. Thank you for trusting me to do it.
Thank you. I'll just wait a minute or so until they
It's a nice turnout.
go have their party in the other room.
Let's hope. Is Joe Lucas?
All right, I do want to report that we did have an executive session held just prior to tonight's meeting to discuss personnel matters. And moving on to the approval of the bill list. So has everybody had a chance to look at the bill list? Questions, comments, discussion? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the bill list from August 30th through September 12th in the amount of $452,513.61.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve the bill list from August 30 through September 12 in the amount of $452,513.61. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Approval of the minutes from September 3, 2019 regular meeting. Have we all had a chance to look at them? I've made a couple of corrections, which I think have been made, one or two tiny typo things. Anything else from anybody else?
No.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of the September 3rd, 2019 regular meeting.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes of the September 3, 2019 regular meeting with those minor corrections. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Public hearing, none. Old business, none. New business. Consider adoption of Resolution 2019-49 regarding the tentative land development of 188 Bechtel Road. Any questions, discussion? Do we need a presentation on this from anybody?
The applicant's here, if you have any questions. There is one typo on the first page. The reference in Bill's letter to paragraph 2 will be changed to paragraph 5/6. And I discussed that with the applicant's attorney before we got started here. And Julie, if you want, if you still want to sign the second page with accepting the conditions, I'll just regenerate the first page and send it to you. If you want to sign it tonight, or if you want to wait, that's fine too.
Does anybody,
Yes, please.
I think we have time.
I'll be brief. Good evening. Thank you for your time. My name is John Paniza, and I'm proud to say that when I was here last speaking to the Planning Commission, I was the equitable owner of this property. Today, I settled on the property, so now I'm a landowner in the township. It's a beautiful piece of ground. I'm a real estate developer, so I don't intend to live in the existing house, but I do intend to do a very nice development on the 10.5 acres. On your screen, we show the sketch plan that has been reviewed by Mr. Grace and your outside consultants. I'm aware of the document that your solicitor prepared. My attorney, who's here tonight, Julie von Spreckelsen, can answer any questions if you have them, any legal questions that you may have. My engineer fell ill and is unable to attend. Hopefully you don't have many difficult engineering questions. There is one issue that has come up with respect to this plan. It was called out in the letter. It has to do with the road alignment, and by aligning the road with the paper street that you see on the left side of my development with my cul-de-sac, I find that 2 lots will have less than the required amount of square footage under this ordinance. One by about 5,000 square feet and the second by about 7,000 square feet. Makes perfect sense to align the roads. We're going to seek relief for the smaller than required lots. I'd ask you to support that. If you'd like to have some discussion about that, we can talk about that tonight. Otherwise, we're fine with the letter as it's written.
So are you're opposed to that road going through there? Is that what you're saying?
No, sir. I'm not opposed to it.
You're not opposing it?
I'm not opposing it.
Okay.
Okay, the sketch plan shows a cul-de-sac, but my understanding is that there was not going to be a cul-de-sac. It was just so that the road alignment would go straight through with no hint of a cul-de-sac.
We may, depending on the township's timing with respect to improving the road adjacent to our property, if that isn't done in time to meet this new road, we'll install the cul-de-sac.
There was anecdotally, it was shared that there might be a supervisor or maybe a couple who don't favor the road going through. From a staff level, everybody felt that it was still better to design it for that. If it doesn't happen now and it happens later, so be it. But that the road as shown on the official map, which shows it as a through road, it should remain lined up for that. On the detail of the cul-de-sac bulb, we were talking about different options today, and by the time we're at preliminary approval, I think we'll have something, more concrete with respect to that. And that I had said to applicant's attorney today, I had no problem recommending a letter of recommendation and approval from the board when he goes to the zoning hearing board to request the relief, because it would be in pursuance of the official map. And so I wouldn't see any reason why you wouldn't support that application for relief. We normally wait until the zoning hearing board application is submitted, and then it gets circulated at our next meeting, and we decide, whether to participate. So, but I'm mentioning it early just so you know, have the full lay of the land.
So the road that goes through and connects, what's the time frame for that?
Well,
What you're showing here?
it's on the official map there's no timetable associated with the official map. I think the only question, it's not when it goes through. The only alternate discussion would have been whether to change the map so that it isn't set to go through, and I think everybody on a staff level feels more comfortable the other way.
If I can give just a brief minute of history. The official map was adopted, I think, last in 2003, maybe updated in 2005. It shows various road improvements that the township has wanted. Some of them have gone through, some of them have been changed. There was one at Greenwood and Linfield Trap that the board at the time took off of the map because the residents spoke out against it. The extension of Bechtel Road to make this more of a straight shot, more of a fluid shot from 113 has been on the official map for as long as I can remember. The township has acquired the piece to the west of it, which on this picture is to the left. That's the Evans property. He has given us the right-of-way, or maybe we bought it, I'm not really sure. But essentially, the township has rights to that right-of-way. We've been waiting for this property to come in to develop, to work through and get the road pushed through. And now, since this developer is here, we're working through the process. And it hasn't been engineered before, there hasn't been a plan in front of us before. So while the tentative sketch is still a proof of concept, when it comes to the engineering phase at preliminary, assuming that you grant him this approval, we'll work through some of the engineering details. And what we've sort of discovered from just our initial conversations is it might take his acre lots that are on the south side of this improvement and make them a little smaller than an acre. An acre is what's required in the R1 district. So we're looking at how we can get through that process.
So do the people that get the smaller lots, they're aware the road would come
Well,
eventually?
they're not that far yet, but
But, yeah, it would be advertised that, knowing that if you bought those, there might be the possibility.
yes, we'll know a lot more when we get to preliminary approval. I mean,
What we envision would be that during the preliminary engineering phase, that the applicant's engineer would design the road as a through road and potentially build the cul-de-sac, the turnaround, hammerhead, whatever it may end up, actually on the Evans property. So that these 7 lots, 8 lots, I guess, with the existing house, right? Yeah. These 8 lots would never see a cul-de-sac on any part of these 8 lots at all, like that. It would only see the final.
who would be doing that? Is that a part of
Yeah,
this project with pursuant to what? Do we have a agreement with?
Pursuant to item paragraph 2, as in Casey's letter, and items.
No, but I mean,
5.
it's off-site.
It's,
Do we have Evans's?
it would be Evans, we own that property from Evans.
Oh, it is owned. Jeff had mentioned it might be a right-of-way, and I didn't.
Right away, my understanding is the township has rights
Yes.
to utilize that property today. I mean, if it turns out it isn't, then I guess the cul-de-sac would end up, on their property, but, it's temporary or whatever. But, that's what we envision, that hopefully these 8 lots are built one time and they don't see a temporary cul-de-sac on any part of their property. And obviously, if the township's schedule was such that, they did the road ahead of time, then you wouldn't even see a temporary turnaround, cul-de-sac, whatever, at any time.
And that's okay with you?
It is.
Good. Thank you.
Anything else, Laurie? I think that's.
Are you guys ready to make a motion?
Yep, I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 2019-49, approving the tentative land development plan for 188 Bechtel Road.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2019-49, approving the tentative land development plan for 188 Bechtel Road. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Manager and department head reports.
It's a real bad curve. Yeah.
You're all quiet over there? Nobody's going to say anything? It's quiet here tonight, folks. Okay, consultant reports. So that, we get to move to Mr. Dingman.
Just 2 quick items. The Old State Road sewer project is complete, and notice has been sent to the property owners that the sewer is available for connection. And I think Brian indicated to me at least 2 applications have been submitted to the township. 2 people expressed interest in connecting immediately.
Out of how many, Brian?
10. The second item is the final restoration of the lawn areas associated with the road projects is ongoing. It started today, in the fall seeding season, so that project should wrap up very shortly, as soon as the grass grows. That concludes my report.
Mr. Moore?
I'm the only one who gets to stand up to stretch their legs. Good evening. Not to make this too long of a discussion, but I'll be here to answer your questions. We all know we've been focusing on Lewis, Vaughn, and Orchard for improvements, and a lot of those short-term improvements are in at this time. There's a little bit more work that we're doing. We're going to be meeting with the homeowners association about taking out, at least barricading that right out that not a lot of people by observation are actually utilizing because of the danger of utilizing it. So they've asked to meet with the township, so that's going to come up. But more as a vision for the future, as we've been putting together the capital improvement plan for the township, our recommendation has been like, let's start planning for the longer term improvements. We've talked about it over the months. Through our analysis, we came up with 2 potential projects that would work there. One of them is a roundabout. The roundabout was recommended in the Township's Act 209. It was favored by the township police. There's a lot of safety features with the roundabout, no traffic light, et cetera, friendly to pedestrians along that route. So there's pros and cons to that. Cost is obviously a little bit higher to build a roundabout. It also takes up a little bit more property. The other was the T intersection, signalized with turn lanes, et cetera. Takes up a little less property, a little less costly in terms of it, but they both will function in terms of operation for traffic and the safety of pedestrians in their own right. So there's a multimodal PennDOT grant that is open now. It came out September 9th. It's open till the beginning of November. And our recommendation to staff internal to the township is if the board can decide on a long-term design, you don't have to have it finalized, and it can change even after you get the grant. But we have to be able to present in an application a way to move forward. Now there's some unknowns here because the township doesn't control the property that we're talking about. But if the township would like to pursue one or the other, we just need to know that and know what the board may want to do in terms of pursuing a grant application at this time. Knowing that you put a grant application together now, it's due in November, you're not going to get a decision on that until summer of 2020. You're going to get a decision in summer of 2020, but then you have to get under contract and legal agreement with PennDOT. So you're probably thinking it's going to be at least a year plus until you're able to do any work. Then you have to go through a design process. The design process can last anywhere from 1 to 2 years, and then into construction after that in the next construction season. So you can see we're several years off. So we're trying to promote the idea of getting grant funds to the township so that you guys can move forward. One of the caveats of a multimodal grant, and you went through this with Jacob Street, is that the township has to put up a minimum of a 30% match. You know, the 30% match can come from a variety of different funds. You know, it can come from Act 209 collections, it can come from general funds, it can come from liquid fuels, you know, you can defer liquid fuels, that type of stuff. And all those things I can talk to you about in more detail. But I wanted to, you know, at least start the conversation. You don't have to make a decision tonight, but if we are going to move forward with putting together a grant application, the big things we need to know is what concept design and language are we using in there? Are we going for the roundabout design to try to get the funds? And that's the more conservative approach in terms of the funds you need. And as I was talking to Mr. Bortenchak before, we've seen projects take a different turn. So let's say you started off as a signalized intersection. We've seen that PennDOT may come back during the process and force the township into trying to create a roundabout, you know, or vice versa. So there's flexibility there, but in order to write the application, we need a direction on which path to take.
Either way, we need that property.
Either way, you need the property. Staff has copies of some concepts that we did. One's a little bit more than the other. If you're going to develop that property, Jeff, what was the zoning on that property? Commercial?
Professional business office,
Professional
PBO.
business office. So to a typical landowner developer, they may see a traditional intersection as coming out as a fourth leg to a signalized intersection, more traditional. It also, the site gives a little bit more area for parking and building space. The roundabout takes up a little bit of that because it will bulb out into the property. But it still allows for access to that property. What we don't know because of grades is how much grading we're going to need to tie that back down. So we won't know that until we engineer the property, Helene, so I can't tell you definitively how much property. The goal would be to minimize it as much as possible and to get that property on board, to be a partner in the project. I also feel as though that part of the problems at this intersection are exacerbated by the school, whether it's the beginning and the end of the day. I'd like the township to also think about asking the school district to become a partner for the local match, you know, because it's the intersection right down the street.
It'll
So
help them,
any of the
yeah.
improvements will be made complete streets ready with walkways and whatever trail or whatever we're going to connect through things. So I think it would be a good idea to consider that as well.
I wanted to ask you, in your opinion, which do you prefer?
So in my opinion, through all the work that we have done to date, my preference, without considering this property as like the red herring here, is that this is primed to put a roundabout. My discussions with the police chief had been that he thinks this is a good place. There's not always good places to put roundabouts. We went through that with the Silver Rhino project. But this is a location that would work well for that, and that's ideal for the pedestrians in the area. But to be fair, will the other design work? It absolutely will work, and that's why we checked to be sure that that would be possible if the township could not pursue that for some reason. I don't know if, Tim, you have any further comments, or?
No, I was glad you brought up the possibility of networking with the school district. You may want to add, I don't know if we would want to add Limerick or Royersford in that. I don't know if it dovetails at any of those other municipal boundaries.
Okay.
I know that we programmed that for 2023, I think, on the capital improvement plan to give us time to get it programmed. So
Yeah.
what's the difference in the cost between the T and the roundabout? I remember we looked at,
Again, conceptually, one is the roundabout is anywhere from $500,000 to close to $1 million more, just because of the initial work. Long-term, though, with the maintenance costs, et cetera, the savings will add up in time, like a ROI on the roundabout. But yeah, initial costs, I think, and that was all in that memo. We did a memo with the table attached some time ago.
If we apply for that grant now, is there a time frame when we have to spend that money by? In other words, you know, if we decide to, you know, when we start looking at the financings of this thing and coming up with our 30%, would you have any idea what our 30% would be off the top of your head? I'm not going to hold you to that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know where your 30% is going to come from exactly. I haven't worked that out with Tim. The point, I guess, if you go into the cycle and you're unsuccessful, let's say the township's unsuccessful, it's actually gone through the cycle, because there's a lot of projects that compete for funding. I have seen that some projects are ideal to get funding and sometimes don't make it the first time, but they're now on the legislator's radar, they're on the state's radar, et cetera, and they're lined up to get funding the next time. I like to bat 1,000 the first time around, right? So if you do, going back to your base question, if you're fortunate to get the funding, if you don't sign the legal agreement right away to get reimbursed for the funding, and the township decides to use general funds to do design as the local match, I think you have a period of time that you can set that legal agreement let it sit while you're doing the design. Once you sign that agreement for the grant funds, you have approximately, I think, 2 years, is it 2 or 3? I think it's 2.
Okay,
But
just
you
want
can
to know
ask-
that we,
You can ask for an extension also during that period if you're far enough along in the project. What they don't want to have happen is you get the grant and you sit on it because you can't do anything. and then
Exactly.
It's not going to anybody else. But if you're showing some momentum, they will allow the extension.
okay.
Any further questions and discussion?
So we should decide relatively soon, you have to get November.
Yeah, I would think
Cut
that
off.
if you can decide no later than the next board meeting in a couple weeks and have an idea, or if you decide sooner than then, and you can let us know. But then that'll give us, 5 or 6 weeks to make sure the application is buttoned up for you.
I'd rather wait.
Because there are letters of support that those are the things, there's a bunch of administrative side to this that takes the long time. Asking the legislators to write letters, asking the TMA to write a supporting letter, getting the school district on board if they so choose to be a partner to the township. So those are the legwork things that take time. Our part of it, filling out the application, we have a concept done, that's relatively in place.
Yeah. Did I hear you right, that you already put barricades up in place there to keep people from using that slip ramp, so to speak?
They have not gone up officially.
Has anything been done there at all yet?
Yep.
Yeah, I think all the signage and all the striping is in.
Because I haven't been through the intersection in a while.
Yeah, all the signage and striping are in. The last piece is the actual barricades, which were the water-filled barricades that were movable and removable. And Anthony, who's here tonight, set up a meeting with the Homeowners Association management company. And so we're just waiting on a specific date and time. Is it this Thursday? Were we confirmed for this Thursday?
Cheryl, I think that was confirmed. Okay,
Okay.
it's on my calendar.
We're shooting for
Do we
this
have the
week.
authority to shut that down, to close that?
We could close the side along Lewis Road, because you can put the barricade within the right-of-way, but outside the right-of-way, that's a private street, and that's been the
Okay,
concern.
so as long as we do it
And we have not heard any pushback, just verbally. It's been like, we want to understand what you're doing and where you're going with the
Right.
project.
Casey, a quick question as far as PennDOT, when they evaluate the criteria for those applications, because I know those are pretty competitive.
Yes.
Do they have a preference over the T versus roundabout? Do they have a bias toward the roundabout? I'm just curious.
Good question. That's a great question. In this particular case, because there's documentation that the township has through their Act 209 and through your planning process, that the township favored the Act 209, or the roundabout through that process, they also would favor something that adds more safety, that's a little bit outside of the box thinking and rather than traditional intersection, because there's buses that go through there. It will help slow traffic down, because when that light's green, we're going to improve the curve. It could, they could see that, okay, the roundabout with the situation might help everything. So I would say that based on that, Tim, we've seen them add merit to that. What is the solution fit the context of the environment? And so in this instance, that's part of why our recommendation early on had been the roundabout.
Okay, and then this, if we decide anything tonight, it's simply to authorize you to prepare and submit a grant application, correct?
Yeah, we would work with staff here to prepare the documentation.
Yeah.
I'd say we should go with the roundabout that Casey's suggesting.
Well, either that or just authorize you to submit the application. And
If you authorize me to submit the application, then you can, in 2 weeks, we can get the application started and make some requests, for some support for an intersection improvement there.
Okay.
And then you can spend some time talking to staff, and contacting us as you look at.
Does the application then have to specify which solution to the problem?
Well, yeah, the application at the end of the day is going to have to attach one.
Okay, but
one
if we give you
concept.
authorization tonight, then you can spend some time, and then the next time we have a meeting, we can have the full board discuss which way we want to go. Is that correct?
Sure, there's things that we can do to get things started.
That
yeah.
would work best, because we want to
Yeah.
get Alan Phil's
Yeah, and
point of
absolutely,
view.
and that's
Yeah.
why I suggested if, we could wait 2 weeks, but if you give us a nod to start the paperwork and to start the reach out, that type of thing. So
Okay,
all the things we talked about tonight, if you could just finish dotting those i's for us, then
a little nudge.
we can cross the t's for you.
Sounds good.
Okay, does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to authorize the traffic engineer to prepare and submit a multimodal grant application regarding the Lewis Road, Vaughn Road, Orchard Court intersection.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to authorize the traffic engineer to prepare and submit a multimodal grant application regarding the Lewis Road, Vaughn Road, Orchard Court intersection. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
I'll get together.
Motion carries. Okay, we have a solicitor's report next.
Actually, Lori, if I could jump
Oh,
in for
sorry.
a second. Excuse me. I have a zoning hearing board application that I got confused on my calendar, and I just wanted to tell the board about it. It's for a series of variances for a property at 100 and 102 North Reber Road. A gentleman wants to build a house on a vacant lot there. The lot is undersized. It's 6,300 square feet. Obviously, it's an R1 area, so a much larger lot. Our ordinance allows for that, but if he violates any of the setback or other bulk requirements, building coverage, things like that, he's got to go in and get a variance. He's asking for 3 variances for building coverage, front yard setback, and a side yard setback. The planning commission's reviewed it. They don't have an issue with it. They're willing to let the zoning hearing board do what they do and look at the application. As with most of these, if the board wants to take some action, they can, but generally this is a pretty straightforward application for an empty lot. He's generally building the house on the foundation of a previous house that was there. I mean, he's improving a little bit. He's bringing it up above the floodplain. He's improving the lot. Generally the impact is nothing more than he's taking 2 lots and making it one with one single-family detached house.
What's the total size of the lot?
6,315.6 square feet. I'm sorry, the existing house, yes, the lot is 6,315 square feet. It's a pretty small lot. As with most of the lots back there in Reber Road, there's a lot of small lots, and you'll have a 100 and a 102 that are together. He's bringing those 2 lots together. So it's still small, it's not a huge house, but it's improving an empty lot at this point.
Okay.
They were all cut up years ago
Yeah,
for,
way back when with tiny
Aren't they called
lots.
movie lots, John?
yeah, movie lots.
Movie
yeah.
lots for whatever reason.
Yeah,
I
a
still
guy
don't
goes
know
in there and he cuts them up and they made summer homes down
Yeah,
there. It's like,
yeah.
some of those people don't even know what they own down there.
Right,
It's like-
and he's clarifying that lot, and there's another lot that's on the north end of it, and I've seen dribs and drabs coming in from them. They're doing the same thing, and they're consolidating these lots, and they're actually, from a township standpoint, they're clarifying what they have, and
Yeah.
it's making a lot more sense. It's just, as with some of these properties, the zoning ordinance allows for a single-family detached house on a single lot. It just makes the provision that if you violate the setbacks, you have to come back in.
Okay, so is there a specific thing
I'm not
that
looking
we
for-
need to do?
This is just the am I participating or am I not question. And it's all pointing towards not, as most of them are, which is fine with me.
Okay.
Do we need to take a vote on that or just tell?
We've established a practice, I think, going back to last December, where you actually made a motion, just so it was on the minutes, to not participate.
All right, I'll make a motion not to send a solicitor against this applicant.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to not send the solicitor to this particular applicant for the zoning hearing board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to supervisors' comments.
Wait, one thing, we skipped over
Oh, solicitors,
my
yes.
solicitor's report, which is I don't have one, so I'm not particularly bothered. But I did want to point out that the one item listed there, that's actually a case handled by an attorney assigned through your insurance policy. And I had conversations with him so that the township was comfortable with the terms of the settlement, but he actually did all the work. And this is just authorization to settle, and it's just awaiting signatures. Everything's already done. In fact, I think we actually discussed it at the last meeting, if I recall. So it's just a matter of you giving approval so he can sign off. This was just a car accident case involving an employee.
Okay. Well, Jeff distracted me. I'm going to blame Jeff for that. So we're looking for a motion to authorize the solicitor to prepare and/or execute any settlement documents regarding the Santos litigation.
I'll make a motion to authorize the solicitor to prepare and/or execute any settlement documents regarding the Santos litigation.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to authorize the solicitor to prepare and/or execute any settlement documents regarding the Santos litigation. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now we're on to supervisors' comments. Anybody have any besides me? I'll go last.
Okay.
Everybody's silent this week. So I need to announce the vacancy on the Uniform Building Code Board of Appeals, but I also understood we possibly had someone to put on that.
Yeah, there's currently a vacancy on the Uniform Construction Code Board of Appeals. The board has met once in my 3.5 years with the township, so it's not a very active board, fortunately. My interpretation is the building code official has not been appealed frequently, nor has many applicants filed for alternative means of construction or extensions of time. But there's no urgency to fill this vacancy. If an appeal is filed, we would act at the next supervisors meeting to fill it. But we wanted to give the board the opportunity to make the public aware that there is a vacancy, and if someone wishes to serve, they could submit a resume to the township manager's attention.
Okay, so we don't need to advertise this in any way?
We do not.
Okay,
No need to advertise it.
all right. The one, before I get to upcoming events, which is included sort of, is I'll be attending the Pennsylvania Municipal Code Summit for 2019. It's in Gettysburg, and it's the first weekend in October.
I will be there too. I'm speaking there on Friday.
Okay. Do I schedule something else?
It's solicitors only, so you don't have to
Oh,
worry.
okay,
Not
good.
invited. Sounds like interesting code.
Yeah. Like when I went to the Bridges thing at PSATS, it's like, wait a minute, I think I'm in the wrong room. So upcoming events, Board of Supervisors meeting schedule is October 7 and October 21. Planning Commission meeting is September 25. Sorry, I'm going to be at Hamilton. That's my anniversary, Jeff. I won't be there.
That's okay. I think there'll be a lot of people. Maybe
Okay. Municipal Authority meeting is October 15. Parks and Rec Committee meeting is September 18 and October 16. And a reminder, that Community Day is September 21 at the Rec Center, all of Anderson Park, and that runs from 1 o'clock to 8 p.m. with fireworks following. Anything else from anybody else up here? In which case, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second the motion.
I'm sorry, did somebody say something?
Yeah, I meant to address something with respect to parking around the, real quickly.
I can have a conversation with you afterwards, sir, if you'd like.
Yeah, I'll have,
Okay, so we have a motion on the table.
I second it.
Yeah, and seconded, so with a motion and a second, we, all in favor, aye? Say
Aye.
All opposed? No. Motion carries.
oh, you adjourned?
Yes, we are adjourned. Mr. Grace will talk with you afterwards. And I believe, is that a record?